Permit me to make a brief appeal in support of Kenya's candidatures. Kenya has put forward candidates for positions where we believe our country can make a meaningful contribution. We have nominated distinguished and experienced jurists who we are confident will serve with excellence and integrity. The candidates include Professor Phoebe Okoa for re-election as judge to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, for the period 2027 to 2036, and Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u for election as judge to the International Criminal Court, ICC, for the period 2027 to 2036. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce this good lady, judge at the Supreme Court, Justice Njoki Ndung'u. Thank you. On behalf of the people and government of Kenya, I wish to respectfully commend Kenya's candidatures for consideration and support from member states. To this end, I extend my deepest appreciation to the African Diplomatic Corps for organizing this important event, and to all of us for the presence, participation, and commitment to the ideals of African unity and solidarity. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we shall truly be in a celebratory mood when we are victorious against war and conflict on the continent, when we have overcome the triple challenges of poverty, disease, and hunger, when we are victorious against epidemics and pandemics, and when victorious against lack of clean water and waterborne diseases. This is the true north, the true measure of our progress and the promise of the Africa Day. Thank you. Happy Africa Day. The annual celebration of the African Day is a defining moment in our shared history. It is therefore a great honor to join you in commemorating the Africa Day 2026, marking the 63rd anniversary of the Organization of African Unity, OAU. Africa Day serves as a constant reminder where we have come from as a continent, who we are as a people, the strength of our unity in the rich diversity, and our collective responsibility and solidarity to forge a prosperous future. Indeed, the opening verse of our African Union Anthem urges us all to unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. This day embodies the African Union's vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. We must remain resolute in translating this collective vision into reality, guided by the African Union Agenda 2063. At this juncture, I wish to note that even as we gather in unity, our thoughts remain with communities affected by the devastating Ebola outbreak in our region, which has claimed the lives of many of our fellow Africans. In the spirit of shared humanity and Pan-African solidarity, I request that we stand and observe a minute of silence in honor of the departed. Thank you. During the G7 summit in June 2026, His Excellency President Ruto articulated Africa's priorities and position as crystallized at the African Forward Summit. Africa is diversifying and strengthening mutually beneficial partnerships founded on trade and investment rather than aid, and on manufacturing and value addition rather than extraction. Indeed, Africa is no longer an apologist for its circumstances, nor defined by lamentations. We are a voice to be heard, a valued global partner with immense opportunities for shared prosperity, and not a problem to be solved. The outcomes of the G7 summit included commitments to reform the development cooperation system and shaping mutually beneficial partnerships, address escalating global debt vulnerabilities that threaten economic stability, and constrain fiscal space for essential public service interventions, and reinforce guarantee architecture, notably through the African Trade and Investment Development Insurance, ATD. It also advanced the need for democratization of technology, including artificial intelligence, and underpinned the imperative of ensuring responsible use of these digital platforms. The summit further called for deeper cooperation in health, including cancer research and resource mobilization to tackle emerging Ebola outbreaks. As such, we must strengthen African health systems and institutions, including the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Africa CDC. Your Excellencies, today's commemoration renews our commitment to amplify Africa's collective one voice in multilateral fora, including calls for United Nations reform to advance our shared aspirations for peace, prosperity, and a more inclusive international order. The continent continues to grapple with the twin challenge of governance and violent conflicts. As we mark 63 years of African unity, we must consolidate our governance gains and encourage each other to firmly embrace democratic values, recognizing that accountable leadership and strong institutions are important to sustainable peace and the silencing of the guns in Africa. Together, we must intensify our efforts to prevent and resolve conflicts across Africa, while providing relief to affected communities and mobilizing international support for the dire humanitarian crisis in the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region. Peace and security remain the bedrock of sustainable development, human dignity, and prosperity. Indeed, the economic dividends of peace and security far outweigh the material gains that states seek to achieve through other economic pursuits. Ultimately, Africa must be at the center of finding solutions to its own challenges. Accordingly, we must support African-led peace and security initiatives and strengthen our institutions such as the African Union, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. Undermining regional organizations risks entrenching dependency. Peace and security initiatives require coordinated regional and international mechanisms consistent with the principle of subsidiarity to foster ownership and durable stability. As you are aware, we commemorate this year's Africa Day under the African Union's 2026 theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Therefore, the 2026 Africa Day renews our commitment to advancing water and sanitation as essential enablers for industrialization, climate resilience, and food security. Additionally, safe drinking water is a critical component of a healthy continent. Africa is endowed with sufficient water resources to meet our basic needs while supporting agriculture, energy generation, and industrialization. The challenge before us, therefore, is not one of scarcity, but of governance, infrastructure, and climate resilience. Notably, Kenya hosted the 11th Ocean Conference in Mombasa, that is just a few days ago, in June 2026, the first to be held in Africa, reflecting Africa's growing leadership in ocean governance and the blue economy. A notable outcome of the conference was the adoption of the Mombasa Declaration, which advances sustainable fisheries, marine conservation, and the fight against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing that costs African countries an estimated 11 to 13 billion US dollars annually. Our rivers, lakes, aquifers, and maritime spaces naturally connect our nations and peoples. They can contribute to regional integration. Therefore, Africa's shared water resources must be a source of cooperation, solidarity, and peace, not tension and conflict.
Welcome all to our second home today, the Egypt House. As we begin celebrating the Africa Day 2026, I am truly honored to host Africa Day celebration at the Egyptian residence.
It is a great honor and a privilege to welcome you on behalf of the African Diplomatic Corps in Kenya to this celebration of Africa Day 2026. We are truly honored with your presence. Although Africa Day is commemorated every 25th May, unfortunately, we were unable to celebrate it today, last year, due to overlapping global events that necessitated its postponement. The day 25th May 1963 was a defining moment in the continent's history as our visionary African leaders gathered in Addis Ababa and established the Organization of African Unity, laying the foundation for the unity, solidarity, and cooperation that continue to guide Africa's journey. As we honor their legacy, we celebrate not only how far Africa has come, but also the promise of what lies ahead. Africa today is a continent of resilience, innovation, and opportunity. Guided by aspirations of Agenda 2063, we are advancing a vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens and contributing meaningfully to global progress.